To order at this time, it's May 14th at 3:30. If we can have our roll call, please.
We don't have a quorum yet to do a roll call, sir.
Quorum, come on guys, let's go. Did you talk to Ian?
Well, no, I said, will you give me that amendment by Thursday and I'll add it? I can do that. I said, okay, good. I'm tired of kicking this can down the road. So we don't need to wait for a city street for it. We got developers and businesses that want to build. Let's get this going.
Here comes the screen picture, right?
I'm going to get it on top. He wants to see. That'll give us enough time for repairs to go down.
That is a wife right there. Let's do it.
Hey, you're making too much noise. You're scared to get the corner. Okay, Mr. Clerk, can we have our roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Dominic, Johnson,
Present.
Jackson, Lynn, Bowman, Cawthorn, Gage, Watts, Middleton, Atkins, Chavez,
Here, sir.
Smith, Lewis, Johnson. We have a quorum, sir.
Okay, if we all can stand. Commissioner Smith, will you lead us in the invocation, and Commissioner Lewis Johnson, if you'll lead us in the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we pause before you today, asking your blessing and your guidance in everything that we do. We bring honor and glory to our Savior, Jesus Christ. For it is your name I pray. Amen.
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 Let's face the American flag. Give the proper salute. Repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would like to welcome everybody here today. Do we have any agenda additions?
Yes, sir, we do. I
Okay.
got, first one, I've got resolution number 42. A resolution authorizing acceptance of Louisiana compliance questionnaire.
Okay. I make a motion to expand our agenda to include resolution number 42. If I can get a second.
Second.
Okay, guys, this is something that it's my understanding that we have a compliance questionnaire every year. It was not put on our agenda due to the fact that a little girl, I guess on the 8th floor, whoever was supposed to get it to us, was involved in an accident. She's fine, but it kind of got here, young lady, yeah, late. So, got a motion, a second. First of all, I have to open this for the public. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor or against adding this to our agenda? I see no one. Can we please vote to add this to our agenda?
We added under resolutions.
Under resolutions. Did everybody vote?
Mine should have been yes, sir.
Okay, Commissioner Smith also voted yes. Todd?
Yes.
So that's unanimous.
Okay, it passes unanimously. It'll come under resolutions. Moving on to our next
We have
item.
another agenda addition, ordinance number 5781 of 2018, amending the budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for reserve trust fund and capital outlay fund to provide an appropriation of $1 million to purchase cameras for the Shot Spotter program.
So move for addition to our agenda.
I have a motion by Commissioner Stephen Jackson to expand our agenda to include ordinance number 5781.
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Chavez. Okay, I'll now open this up for anybody wishing to speak in favor of adding this to the agenda, or anyone wishing to speak against this to the agenda. Okay, now we need to vote to add this to the agenda.
Yes, sir. That'll go under ordinance, introduction for ordinance.
Do what?
I'm on the board.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Back in 2015, I brought this Shot Spotter program to our school board, city council, commission meeting. And then I also had a meeting with the mayor, the chief of police, and the sheriff to try to incorporate the Shot Spotter program into Shreveport in 2015. When I first saw that there was an increase in criminal activity.
Can I stop you there? Hang on one second. can we talk about this to add it to the agenda? We don't really need to be discussing it right now, can we?
Well, this might be the reason why I might vote the way that I do, so that's why I'm
If
saying.
it's related to whether or not you're going to add it, then you can go ahead.
Okay, and that's what it's related to, obviously, so go ahead.
Yes. So in that, you know, basically the plan was to not, for the parish itself to have the burden of putting this in the city, but also the city, the parish, and the school board in a joint effort to try to put these sensors, and because most of the shot spot is basically dealing with sensors. And there's little microphones that pick up sound waves. So when a bullet is fired, it can then pinpoint where that particular bullet is. The cameras are actually something extra that you add to shot spotters, but the main part of the program is the actual sensors. Those sensors then ride in the way the software is programmed. When a bullet is heard or shot is fired, there is in the police cars they have these PCs, and also at the 911 center that identifies an address that says so many rounds have been fired. It actually counts the round based on the sound. Right now, in 2018, I think that the crime that we've had has basically taken multiple steps up. This was good in 2015 to try to curtail what's going on, but the last 3 nights, we've had a 4-year-old shot in the head, we had a teenager shot in the head, and we had someone shot last night in the head. So those 3 crimes, 3 days in a row, someone been shot in the head. That sends a message that this is not just a regular shooting, this is something that's pinpointed to identify a particular deal. And what I would want to do, instead of using shot spotters in this program, is actually to bring law enforcement in, state police, get the sheriff on board to help patrol the Shreveport area, and also even talking to the governor to bringing in the National Guard some weekends, because school is finna be out this week, and typically crime goes up when school goes out. And if we don't get a handle on this, shot spotter is fine, but right now we need to get a handle on it. It's like the wild, wild west. And so I think we need additional law enforcement present with National Guard, State Police, and the Sheriff Department patrolling our streets in Shreveport. So I'll be voting no on this because of the fact that I think we need more of an aggressive deal than shot spotter. Even though I brought it to the table 3 years ago.
Okay.
I think it needs to be a secondary piece, but right now we need bodies on the street.
Okay. Obviously, what we really need to be focused on is whether to add this to the agenda, and we seem like we're getting into discussing the merits of it. So let's stick to that one issue, whether you wish to add it to the agenda or a reason why you don't want to add it to the agenda. Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this might be viewed as discussing the merits, but my question is there or has there to this point been any input given from law enforcement, be it the Sheriff's Department or the Police Department, as it relates to this initiative? Have we had any input from them as of yet?
Commissioner Jackson says he has.
I have, and I guess it speaks to what Commissioner Linda Johnson mentioned. So I don't know if you want me to get into that now or wait.
You can go ahead.
Because it answers
You
your
can
question.
briefly.
The question of additional bodies has been discussed, but what those law enforcement agencies will tell you is that their job is they're not going to be out, they're not trained, and you do training. You come from a training background. They're not trained to deal with violent crime. They're trained to deal with more traffic stops. State police will probably come in and they deal with more of your routine traffic stops, speeding, license, expired license plate, expired inspection stickers, no insurance, that kind of stuff. They don't go into neighborhoods. And I have had a sit-down conversation with members of Troop G back when the 6 individuals got shot up here in Cherokee Park. And their thing was, that's not what we do. More bodies on the street, that obviously is one approach. I believe that City Councilman Bradford is here. I think you all have added revenue to your budget to put more bodies on the street. So with that regard, I have talked to deputies. I have a meeting that's set up with the sheriff. I'm just encouraging us. We're not going to finally adopt this until 2 weeks later. So there's an opportunity for us to get everybody at the table within that period of time. This effort is just to add it so we can have discussion. We don't have to do the $1 million. I'm always open to a lower amount if we want other entities to play a part. I just want us to get the ball rolling and conversation started at this point.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Jackson, you're on the board, and we'll just remind you, reason to add it.
Yeah, I would ask us to add this to the agenda to give us an opportunity to have a conversation with our local law enforcement officers. There was a meeting today. The sheriff's office had their meeting today. I have asked for a meeting with Sheriff Prater. I did send word through Captain Gibbs to have a meeting with him. He was going to work through the deputy, Jay Long, I believe is his name, to have a more in-depth and robust conversation on how we think this can work, because the truth of the matter is, Councilman Bradford, without buy-in from local law enforcement, this won't be successful. I commend Commissioner Johnson for bringing this up as a discussion point a couple of years ago, and it was sort of met with cool waters. One issue was because of funding issues from the city, but here's an opportunity for us to just kickstart this conversation again, and that's all I'm asking us to do, is add it to the agenda, and we can have our conversation going forward. But I think this is a worthwhile deal to at least add to the agenda and see how law enforcement feels about it.
Okay. Obviously, I would just be through.
Yes.
Obviously, we got some that are going to vote no, so it probably is not going to get on the agenda, but it'll be discussed. I sent you an email a few minutes ago. I don't know if you got it, but I would think the appropriate thing would be to send this to a committee, have this thing vetted out, to answer all the questions. If we can get law enforcement involved, if this is something we wish to do, all of those questions. So I just think it probably needs to go to committee, so I'll be voting no. Commissioner Chavez?
Thank you, Chair. I was going to ask everybody just to vote yes, which is the reason I seconded. I may not agree with $1 million, but at the end of the day, this is obviously something that we need to consider, because crime is up, and it affects every single district and every single person around this horseshoe. And thank you, Commissioner Jackson, for bringing this on there. I think we do need to have some conversations about this, whether it be around this horseshoe or in a committee. So, like I said, where I'm not willing to vote for $1 million, I'm willing to talk about this, and we start the conversations. So I'll be voting yes. I ask that you guys do too, and then we can just move it to committee and get this ball rolling, because these communications need to happen, and need to happen quickly. Thanks, guys.
Commissioner Atkins?
I know this is a valid issue, very important for the community, but I'd like to see this discussed in committee. It's very complicated, lots of moving parts, lots of entities that would be involved. So I'd rather see it go to committee. Thank you.
Again, we're wasting time, which obviously is going to go, it's not going to get on the agenda today, it looks like. So let's keep this moving and try to keep our meeting moving. Commissioner Johnson, for the second time?
Yeah, I just want to say that, I mean, we can have a discussion without actually doing the ordinance with the people that need to be at the table. And I think that we ought to form an ad hoc committee with commissioners, and then invite the law enforcement, the mayor. We need to get the school board on board too, because a lot of the points that, when I looked at it back in 2015, a lot of points we could actually use is on Caddo Parish School property. So, I mean, a lot of the research has been done. It's just, we just need to pull the trigger to make it happen. Okay. And who's going to fund what and how much.
All right, please vote. It's to add this to the agenda. Okay, that fails to be added to the agenda, but we'll be looking at this to send it to the committee, so we will have some more discussion on this, Commissioner Jackson, okay? Moving to our next item.
Next, we move to citizen comments.
I only have one citizen comment. Let's see. I will read it. Citizens who wish to address the commission must fill out a comment card and forward it to myself or the clerk of the commission. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Now I have 2 cards. So our first one is John Settle. Mr. Settle, if you can come up, please, sir.
John Settle from Fieldwood. I just wanted to commend Lewis Johnson for having Paul Elio speak to the public last week. I did attend. I got some answers. A lot of answers I didn't get, but at least it was a start. I thought it was good that he did that, and he was very careful to, on the front end and the back end, to say that he was facilitating the meeting because it was in his district, but it wasn't an official meeting of the parish, called by the parish. So I think it was good that he came. I think there's still as many questions as answers. And I really think that if we get Cross Bayou, that would be a great place for the first Elio dealership, and I'm going to suggest that to the council next week. Thank you again, Mr. Johnson.
Mark Meadows.
Medicus.
Mark Medicus.
There you go. Like the Index Medicus, the Breakaway Golf Clubs, or the Medicus Hospitals. Unfortunately, I'm not related to any one of them. I'm Mark Medicus at 10455 Linwood Avenue in the parish of Caddo. And all I want to do is just mention a couple of things. I've been in here to speak before in reference to the Uniform Development Code. And there's a whole lot of reasons I wasn't against it. We're starting to see the results of that. And you got to keep in mind where the Uniform Development Code came from. It came from the United Nations, which has a majority of nations that are anti-American, and we're seeing the results of it. See, I look at things from a perspective as being a father or a grandfather, and I look at my children and I say, you know, I hope we leave you a future better than what we had, and that goes into all respects of life, whether social, economic, lands, whatever, but I'm finding it seems to be drifting a little bit. The Metropolitan Planning Commission has gotten a little bit rough. We gave them some power. They've exceeded that power, and it's starting to affect, and as you see, business in our area is starting to get a little lax, a little slow, seems to be moving over to Bossier Parish and other areas. And I don't find that acceptable, because I want to tell you something. Caddo Parish is an awesome place to live. If it wasn't, I wouldn't be here. It's a super place. It's a great place to raise children, grandchildren. My grandchildren, I've got a grandson that goes across over to my daughter's house, and he's shooting pigs. Now, he's learning how to clean them and whatnot, but we've eaten a lot of pig lately. And looking at what we see with the Uniform Development Code, technically we're not supposed to be able to do that because we're within a 4-mile limit of the line, and I'm hoping you guys will do away with that line. And remember, you got a city and you have a parish, and let us in the parish be in the parish. It's a good thing. He's learning some things in that regard. That's part of the education process. But I want you to really consider all of these things. Don't get caught up in words like sustainability. We can sustain and we can live well within the requirements that we have. And I feel like if you look at these things from a pragmatic sense of where we are and what has already taken place and what has transpired, you'll want to look backwards and say, let's do away with the Uniform Development Code within the parish, and let's get our lines drawn up where we are the city and we are the parish, and separate us. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Medicus. Willie Bradford.
Thank you, Mark.
Councilman Willie Bradford.
Councilman Willie Bradford.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon to the commissioners and to the administrator. Mr. Chairman, I came down initially to offer my support to Commissioner Jackson's resolution to add the shot spotters to the agenda. I'm going to shift my comments for a minute, but I want to say I'm sort of disappointed that you chose not to add it to the agenda. In the body in which I serve, we oftentimes, regardless of the addition, we would offer a common courtesy to our fellow council members. The debate and the dialogue that follows the introduction is the most important part of any legislation. Adding it to the agenda and not giving that commissioner the courtesy, I think, is I wouldn't have done it, and I'm disappointed that you did it as well. But let me just say this. You would obviously understand better what is happening in Shreveport if you lived within the demographics of the constant crime and violence that has somewhat taken over some of the streets and communities of this city. 5 homicides, hundreds and hundreds of shootings in the last 7 days is unacceptable. Whatever you do, I commend Commissioner Jackson first, but this is not a city problem. What we're dealing with now is an all of us problem. The parish has jurisdiction within the city. We cannot continue to allow things that have separated us in the past to continue to separate us. Things are getting too serious now. Crime and violence is a major problem. It was mentioned that it's just the beginning of this summer, school letting out. And if we do not collectively understand and curtail this spike in crime and violence, we can only wonder what's going to happen in the middle of this summer. So resources are needed. Just this morning, I wrote a letter to our state senator, Gregory Tarver, and as well to the sheriff, explaining to them their responsibility as well to the citizens of this city, and looking at providing resources, manpower, or whatever the state and the parish could afford to land toward the eradication and lessening of these elements that seem to be perpetrating upon our citizens.
Motion to extend time.
Second.
Thank you, but let me just say this.
Hang on. A motion to extend time?
Okay.
We'll do it for 2 more minutes, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I don't mean to be railing, Mr. Chairman, but I'm just saying that when you get up in the middle of the night and go to a crime scene, when a 4-year-old kid has been killed, everything is off the table. Okay. We have a killer on the loose. We have several killers on the loose. And we have to use every means that we have available to us, parish, state, city, to go in and to root out whatever is causing these forces that are causing this city to be on lockdown. If we was just using the metaphor of law enforcement, all points bulletins should be going out. In this case, all government bulletins should be going out saying to our citizens, we are not going to sit by and not allow this to happen. The citizens are looking for you, they're looking for the city, they're looking for the state, they're looking for our governmental entities to weigh in on their safety, on their way-of-being. And when offers are made, we can't dismiss them and delay these, because the shootings that are going to happen following today's shooting, 60 rounds was expended upon Curtis and Murders and Frederick. They're not going to delay that. So we cannot delay looking for opportunities that we can put into place, into law, into focus, how we can eradicate or even lessen this crime and this violence that are now perpetrated on the minds and the communities of our city. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman Bradford. Thank you for being here today. Okay, that's all the citizen comments I have. At this time, we'll move to our next item.
Next, we move to visitors. Ms. Janine Malice and Mr. Gary James, Volunteers of America.
Okay, is Mr. Jermaine May and Gary James here?
Hello, my name is Janine Malice, and I'm an attorney, and I work for Volunteers of America. What we're talking about today is the Veterans Treatment Court program that the Volunteers of America established in 2015 through First Judicial District Court. figure out how to do this. Okay. What is a Veterans Treatment Court? This is only for veterans of the armed forces. It's a court supervised program coupled with intensive treatment programs for misdemeanor and felony criminal offenders. It's designed for veterans with alcohol or drug addictions only. It's a mechanism to have their records expunged after successful completion and graduation.
These are visitors.
The Veterans Treatment Program, where is the top one? Or, oh, okay.
Just go forward.
Go back, excuse me. This program was begun in Buffalo in 2008. It's a model for other national courts. As I said, this was started in 2015 by Volunteers for America. I'm a Veterans Coordinator, and I've been operating it since 2015. We presently have 13 veterans in our program. 25 have gone through our program since 2015. Well, that seems like a small number. This opportunity gave us opportunity to get our legs on the ground. We were the second Veterans Court in Louisiana. When we got started, but we need to get more money. We're certain component parts that Mr. James is going to talk about that we haven't been able to do the mentor program because of lack of funding. So this will enable us to get some more funds because that's a crucial part of the program. The purpose is to divert veterans from the jail, which obviously saves the parish money. Also to reduce rearrest or recidivism. Promote self-sufficiency through employment and education. We've done that. For all our 11 graduates have gotten jobs in the community or completed their education. They remain in the community as a productive citizens of the community. This is all part of their treatment. We work with the VA office and the hospital. We look into their criminal history. We work with the district attorney's office. As I said, they must have a substance abuse or mental health problem to get into our program. We do not take gang-related or sex-related offenses. How does a veteran enter the court? After the veteran has been assessed and deemed appropriate, he or she must appear in court and plead guilty. It's not a diversion program. They have to plead guilty. The veteran then must agree to recommend a course of treatment. This is through the VA. All treatment is provided through the VA. We have a social worker who's on our staff. We have a probation officer on our staff. We all work as a team. That's part of working with veterans, is the team approach. And that's what's found to be effective, is when you work in a non-adversarial setting to give them the opportunity to be a part of a team again. It's a 15-month commitment. The veteran has been approved to enter. There are many steps. It's a 5-phase, highly structured program. During phase 1, they must go to have court appearance, and it are mandated every 2 weeks. They have drug tests on a random basis. They progress through the phase program, and they go to meetings, treatments, appointments, court appearance, adherence to drug tests. This is different than a drug court program. We actually are getting that person treatment. A lot of our veterans have never been in treatment before. That's why it's deemed to be successful, is we're working with the VA. These are veterans that you hear about in the newspaper. Veterans that are committing suicide on opium painkillers. We are trying to help them get off of these addictive medicines through different types of therapy. Actually, you'll see some pictures. We have a yoga therapy program that's integrated in this program. Once a week they go to yoga to learn how to relax, and they love it. At first they were resistant, and now they can't wait to do the yoga program. Of course, there's significant sanctions. This is what we were talking about. I was talking about the yoga therapy. Of course, the Judge Marcotte is definitely in support of this program. He was going to prepare a letter, but we're going to wait until Thursday. We have probation and parole officers, the treatment court coordinator, which is myself, and I've been an attorney. I've been practicing law for 31 years. I work with the veterans and the justice officer to prepare reports to the court every 2 weeks. The peer mentor program is a program that we hope to get funding for, because right now we only have funding from Volunteers of America. We get no other criminal court funding. We get no funding from any other agency. It's strictly Volunteers of America. A veteran has successfully completed the program when he abstains from alcohol or drugs for 15 months and they've sought mental health treatment, and then they get their record expunged, which that is crucial because everyone knows now you have to get a background check in every job that you apply for. These veterans cannot get jobs if they can't get this off their record. As I said, we've had 11 graduates since 2015. We've only had 1 rearrest. So I think that's a successful program, and Mr. James is going to be able to talk about the other programs and why we want to apply for this grant. And we'll answer any questions after we finish.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us today. Let me kind of back up a minute, kind of give you kind of brief history of how this started, because as Janine alluded that this is primarily funded by Volunteers America. It's kind of on a shoestring budget. We did this because we have multiple programs for veterans, and we have as a treatment program, an in-house program where we have 46 veterans live. And what we found is that those folks would go through a tier program, really work really hard. They go to apply for an apartment, apply for a job, the door slammed in their face. So we kind of got together and said, how are we going to start this? So really, Judge Marcotte and all these folks, Louisiana Probation and Parole, the VA, all volunteer their time to do this. The only paid position really is Janine, and the rest of us kind of, we wear dual hats. A couple of weeks ago, the Department of Justice released grant opportunities nationwide. There's going to be 96 grants awarded for about $100 million. The reason we're here today is for one reason. We're asking the Commission not for support, because this particular grant, and most grants are not that, not available to nonprofit organizations like Volunteers America. It has to be a governmental agency. So we're asking you today to consider, to think about, and we'll be providing you with this information, is if the Commission, Caddo Parish, would take the lead, and we'd be more than happy to write the grants. We've got a host of grant writers, but partner with the Commission where the Commission takes the lead and actually writes the grant as the Caddo Parish Commission, and hopefully can subcontract through a sole source contract. As I said, Janine's an attorney, hopefully getting with the parish attorney to see if this is even a viable option. We're kind of on a very short time frame because the grant is due June 5th. We've already begun work on the process. So really the next important step is irrelevant to what we do from here on out if we don't get the support of a governmental agency. And we approach Caddo Parish because it made the most sense, because we're in Caddo District Court currently, and we're hopeful that, I noticed walking in that you've got a wall of honor to veterans, and hopefully that the parish would consider partnering with us and taking the lead on the grant and working with Volunteers of America, perhaps as a sole source contractor, to continue doing what we're doing, but expanding it and finally making it whole so we can have that peer mentor, a battle buddy. It's important that if you have a veteran that's compensated, that can go check on these guys, go to court with them, go to doctor's appointment, making sure they're following up with everything that they need to do. Like I said, there's a very short period of time. We're looking at $500,000 over the course of 4 years. There's a match requirement. Volunteers of America, certainly we're going to approach multiple entities about this. Right now we're fully funding the program as it exists now, but for those of you that are familiar with the organization, we have an exceptionally great donor base of a lot of really concerned citizens and a lot of groups. We're probably the largest single source provider for the VA Medical Center here locally. We've got about 4 separate programs that we're currently in partnership with the VA, both nationally here and here at Overton Brooks. I'd certainly be happy to entertain any questions at this point.
Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you for your time and for the explanation. I missed it, but why is it that you need a public body to go through for this request?
Because this particular grant, and every grant that we've looked at, whether it be through SAMHSA, this one is particularly through the Department of Justice only, and I knew I should have grabbed my glasses, but Only state and local courts, counties, and units of local government can apply for this.
So why don't you go through Judge Marcotte's court?
Because that's the first judicial court.
So that court is not eligible for the request?
As I understand it, and again, we've been on a very short timeline. This was released very quickly. As I understand it, the current drug court, the civilian drug court, operates and gets their funding through the first judicial court, and we did not want to in any way compete. This is strictly for veterans. It's not a tradition. I mean, it's a diversion model. It's like a drug court model, but it is specifically for veterans because they experience unique, commonalities that they get support from other veterans. So it's just strictly for veterans, and we've found that model works very well because they share similar experiences, maybe similar diagnosis. We're seeing a lot of our veterans. And I've been doing this for quite a while. We're seeing a lot of younger veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. We're seeing a lot of veterans that are experiencing kind of the same addictions and mental health issues. And so that cohesiveness, that group, that kind of whole battle buddy shared experience works well for the group. So that where they may not necessarily work in the regular drug court model.
Thank you.
You done? Commissioner Chavez?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. James. Wanted to ask you, you said the deadline is June the 5th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the deadline is for the grant, for you guys to write the grant and submit it. And forgive me, but typically when you guys ask for a grant, you're asking for money, correct?
Correct.
From the federal government?
Yes, sir. This would be through the Department of Justice.
Okay, so I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Are you asking us for money as well?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay.
What we're asking for is to basically apply for the grant through the Parish Commission, utilizing, hopefully you guys have grants.gov and your DUNS number, and then you would hopefully subcontract with.
Would you repeat that, please?
Yes, sir. If I'm quite certain as a governmental body that you guys have used grants.gov and submitting grants electronically, whether if it's through municipal improvements, those sorts of things. You would be the lead agency, and given Jernine's research into the matter, you could do a sole source contract given the uniqueness of it, and it's already a program that is in existence. So you would take the lead. We would be writing the grant as if we were the commission. Although hopefully, and we obviously expect there to be some negotiations both with the parish attorney and the administrator to work out all the details on how this would work. It's just been my experience in looking at a lot of these grants over the years that only governmental entities are eligible for this types of grant.
Okay, so you're bringing us a no-cost solution to help the local veterans that have been incarcerated and facing drug charges, correct?
Yes, sir. And as I said, we've been doing it, but we'd like to expand it to include a lot more veterans and hire folks that will be able to do it full time, and really send some folks out into the field. Like a peer mentor is technically a veteran that's been there before, maybe that's had quite a bit of sobriety under their field, but be a paid position that would be out there supporting those. We've attempted to try to do it with volunteers, but to getting folks to really commit to that has been very difficult. So that's kind of been the missing piece, and then really a full-time veteran coordinator that can get a lot more people in, because we've only had 12 since we've started the program, but we really want to engage both CCC and even maybe the city courts. And this particular grant is unique because it's also really focusing on the opioid crisis as well. And the VA Medical Center here, Overton Brooks, I don't know if you guys are aware, has now a Suboxone clinic, which is separate, which does allow a medical alternative to opioid abuse. So there's that, and then it also does allow us to expand the current definition from, we're only working with non-violent offenders right now, but it does allow us to expand into working with some folks that have experienced some sort of violence, like domestic violence, because it's not, it's interesting when, folks are having substance abuse issues, and some mental health issues like PTSD, it's not uncommon for them in their interaction with law enforcement to somehow be involved with domestic abuse, those sorts of things. And what we're trying to do ultimately at the end of the day is wipe the slate clean, or help them wipe the slate clean. This is not an easy program. It is tough. And those of you that have been before Judge Marcotte, you can certainly know he can be very tough. And when that gavel comes down and the bailiff comes and puts handcuffs on you in front of court, I mean, he sends a very serious and powerful message. So it's not like a cakewalk. It is 14 months of intensive treatment, attending a lot of meetings, making sure that they've met all their appointments, making sure they've shown up for court, they're meeting with their probation and parole officer. You know, what I think is remarkable is that, again, you know, we have Louisiana Department of Probation and Parole that are essentially doing this on their own. They've agreed to help us do this. Judge Marcotte is doing it. It's just been a lot of people.
Mr. James, just out of time, we
Yes,
got
sir.
a lot of commissioners want to ask you some questions. I'm
Yes,
trying
sir.
to get to these questions.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Chavez?
No, I'm going to yield, Chair. Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
James.
Jackson?
Thank you, and if you could just give me the short.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I've got some.
We got about 4 or 5 people
Right.
up here, so.
Right. And so part of my question was, you're not asking for money. Dr. Wilson, I guess my first question starts out with you. Do we have anybody on staff who can, and I was looking for Clay. Is anybody from juvenile here? We don't have anybody on staff, a grant writer on
Yes,
staff?
yes, sir. We have Ms. Anita Mills here today.
Okay.
And Ms. Nan, who currently run the drug program that we administer on behalf of the district court right now. They're here for technical answers if you care to.
Oh, they are here?
Yeah, they're here.
Okay.
And I also like to speak on it too.
So, but are they grant writers or?
They're not grant writers, they're grant managers and implementers.
Okay.
Because we have a grant from the Supreme Court of the state of Louisiana.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And the person is here, Ms. Nan is here, who operates that.
Because I think part of the question was why Caddo Parish or why a public body? My question to you is, did y'all not reach out? Have y'all reached out to any of the local higher education institutions? Do you have to go through Caddo Parish?
No, sir. It was just a natural, because of our relationship again with the district court. It was a natural fit for it to be Caddo Parish. Yes, sir. Because you are a governmental entity, and that is a requirement for us to not get.
Right.
You know, we could have gone to the city, but we came to the parish, and.
No, I understand. Well, I'm just curious. We have Southern here, we have LSUS here, we have Centenary here, and I don't know if anybody on their staff would be interested in loaning, because what you see a lot of times, which makes another point that I often say, is us utilizing our higher education assets. A lot of times they will lend. I have seen them lend their support as sort of the match if they write the grant and administer the grant. That can kind of come in as some in-kind donation on the grant.
Yes, sir.
So for whatever reason, I support what's on the agenda later, but for whatever reason we don't, if we don't choose to do this, I think it's a great idea if we have the resources to do it. I don't think this would bind us to do anything, Donna. This wouldn't bind us. It would just open the conversation for us exploring it.
The resolution of support simply says that you support their application.
Okay.
But I do think that they're asking for something different.
That's one of the questions I had.
Yes.
It would be easy to amend if you all decided to do something different.
Okay, I'll just say, speaking what's actually on the agenda, which is the resolution support, speaking outside of that.
Yes, sir.
I would encourage you, I don't know if you've reached out to Chancellor Clark at LSUS or Centenary, but I would encourage you to reach out to them. Maybe they could fill a veterans niche within one of their departments. I think LSUS does have a focus on veterans. Well, have you reached out to the VA?
Yes, sir. Actually, we work currently now. We have a representative from the VA Medical Centers. They're VJO, they're Veteran Justice Outreach Professionals. So that's a part of our treatment team currently.
Okay. So yeah, if you want to reach out to them about the other part of your request for us to write it, I don't know.
No, well, I'm not, sir. I'm sorry if I'm confusing it. I'm not asking you to write it. We have grant writers. Obviously, a lot of our organization is funded by grants, federal and state, and so we're saying we're offering our services to write it, but we would have to do it under the auspices of Caddo Parish.
We would have to be so we basically would be the financial conduit.
Yes, sir. You are the lead agency. Okay. We would be writing it in conjunction with, if you've got a grant writer, to make sure that we're.
But we wouldn't be actually writing the grant.
Yes, sir. Well, you're not technically writing it, but you would be.
We're applying.
We would be writing it for you. Yes, sir. You would be the actual applicant.
Financial vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. I understand better. Thank you.
Dr. Wilson, you're on the board. Can you please explain this a little bit? And has anybody reached out to you about this or had any discussions with you?
I read a lot of the email traffic concerning this matter, and when we looked at it, I printed out all of the directions and 51 pages of instructions for this grant. And the grant does have a matching component, and for $500,000, it's $166,000 has to be matched to go with the grant. On the low end, for $400,000, it'd be $133,000. Commissioners, you typically do not apply for grant for third-party agencies. We have never applied for grant outside the funding source of this organization. So I don't advise you do so. And let me qualify this. You all know I'm a veteran.
Okay.
Go to VA hospital every 6 months, disabled connected veteran. But I don't think this is what we ought to be doing in terms of being an applicant. Because what we're saying is that we will apply for it and turn the management over to somebody else. We don't do that. We currently have a drug program right now because another agency, local agency, used to operate it for the district court. And the state Supreme Court said because of certain violations, they were going to remove the program. Judge Marcotte approached us and asked us if we helped save the program. And we stepped in because we fund that agency. So we ended up hiring a full-time person, Ms. Mann, she's here, to administer the program on behalf of the district court. So we don't want to be in a position where we apply for the grant. We are the ones responsible for it, but we are not managing it. That would be very troublesome if we would do that. I support the idea as a veteran, but I just don't think you all pay me to be honest with you and give you my opinion. I just don't think that's something we ought to be doing as a commission body. It says that there's several different people that could apply for this grant. The district court could apply for it. Other agencies, all 14 agencies can apply for it. But I just don't think it fits our preview because we be down here picking winners and losers, Commissioner Jackson, by picking which one we pick, which one we choose, which support, which one we don't. And there are 1,500 nonprofits. So once you start doing this, you're gonna have to do it for others that may want the same consideration.
Well,
that's my opinion on that.
I didn't exhaust my full 5 minutes, but somehow I just got skipped over. But I hope the chair would stop doing that. This is not the first time. But nobody even asked was I finished.
I thought you were through.
Oh, okay.
I never said I was done.
Oh, okay. Okay, but anyway, so
are you done now? Hang on. Commissioner Jackson?
No, you gave the floor to Dr. Wilson.
Well, I'm gonna give it back to you. Finish up.
Well, Dr. Wilson, is this not what it sounds like you're describing? And I'm glad. I guess we had this.
Yes, sir.
Your portion, because I was led to believe that we're not writing the grant. We're just being the financial pass through. But hold on. I thought we're not the financial pass through for the Caddo Community Action Agency, where we do pass through funds for them.
But that's our program.
So we own that program.
Yes, sir. We own.
Okay,
that
I'm asking for clarity because it seems like everybody else can ask questions and get clarification. I get rushed. I'm asking for clarity.
Yes, sir.
And this is not my proposal. I think it's a great idea, and any way that we can help do it. But it seems like there may be some issues here.
Yes, sir, they are.
That you have reservations for.
Yes, sir.
Does the match have to be in kind or financial?
It's in kind finance.
It's in kind or
finance.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So the actual employee contribution is somebody from district court. Does district court count as an asset of Caddo Parish?
No, sir, but it's an agency that we fund.
That we fund?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And does their drug court grant money come through Caddo Parish?
Yes, sir. But we have that employee that works for us that administers that whole program.
Okay.
So we have every aspect of the control.
Mm-hmm.
The gentleman mentioned U.S. government.org, meaning the U.S. grants.
Right.
Well, we don't want to relinquish that to someone else to put data in because we're responsible for all the other grants attached to that as portal as well.
Okay.
I'm sorry, sir.
So I'm thinking. So I just think that we ought not go to an area we have never been. Not that we in fear of the unknown, but as a matter of principle, when you go down this path, you can't stop. As to what you do for one, you have to do for others. Unless you start picking and choosing which one you're going to do.
And I don't like to pick.
Right.
I don't like for us to pick and choose. Well, let me ask you: have y'all sat down and had a meeting about this? Have y'all?
No, sir, but we did do a little research. We contacted the Supreme Court of the state of Louisiana, and they are going to start a specialty court.
Okay.
For veterans, they can apply for that. The matter of fact, it's only 3 pages
Mhm.
versus 51 pages of
For the
instructions
federal
for a
government.
federal grant. It's not even to mention the grant.
Okay. Well, are you opposed to sitting, y'all having maybe a cup of coffee or a phone
No,
call?
so I'm not
or
opposed to
something?
that, but,
Okay.
but what I am opposed to of the Cal Parish Commission being a grantee and then relinquishing the responsibility to someone else.
Okay. That answers my question. I'm finished now, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Dr. Wilson, do you have anything else to add on this? Because you're next on the agenda. I want to make sure I
just
give
wanna
you
say-
your opportunity to
Yeah, just
speak.
one last thought. The current grant, we have 64 slots, $320,000 from the Supreme Court. We currently average on each month 53 participants. And it could be a veteran, a non-veteran, it doesn't matter, as long as the court prefer them. We would give them the same services that this gentleman is describing.
Supreme Court.
Hang
Yes,
on,
state
Mr.
Supreme
Jackson.
Court.
Hang on. Go ahead, Dr.
State
Wilson.
Supreme Court. So we have some additional slots, and not to usurp what the gentleman's saying, but we have a program that we fully run and manage. And it works better that way for us as a governmental body, that we don't lose control of the process.
Okay. Are you done?
So, yes, I'm done, sir.
Okay. So just to hash around what I'm saying, we have a drug court. It's not a veterans court, it's a drug court, but it does provide for the veterans.
Yes, yes, sir,
basi-
anyone that
and
need that service.
We don't need to get into the, I guess, being the grantee, and you're not recommending this, obviously.
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
And I'm a
And
veteran,
you know,
so
and
I don't have
I
anything
said,
against
I
the
read this, I'm concerned because I read this resolution as it is, and it says support, and then they're asking for money, and we've seen that before. We do support, and it comes back for money issues. So, moving on to Commissioner Lyndon Johnson
I pass.
and Commissioner Bowman.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I'm pretty much going to do like Commissioner Johnson. I had some questions. I thought it was a good program, and it still seems like an excellent program. I was willing to be on board still. Can I ask Dr. Wilson something, Mr. President?
Sure.
If we were able to have control as far as the management of it, would you still not recommend us being involved with it?
Well, I think, sir, we already have a program that could be expanded on.
Okay.
And the funding will come through the Supreme Court.
Yes,
And
sir.
that will be more manageable for us, but we may have to add an additional person to manage it. But right now, they're not asking for that. They're asking for us to be the applicant so they can manage the program.
Oh, no.
And we don't feel that's the correct position for us as an organization to be in. Because, gentlemen and women, excuse me, we had the Caddo Meals on Wheel came before you all a couple of years ago, and the grand foster parent program was going away.
Okay.
And they asked us to step in, and Attorney Frazier and I met with them, and was the same problematic situation, right, Attorney Frazier?
That's correct.
We would have had to give control up totally to someone else, and I just don't think we ought to do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you,
Wilson.
Dr. Wilson. No one's else on the board.
I
Thank you
wasn't
for being
finished.
here today. Thank you for your presentation.
I wasn't finished.
I'm sorry. Were you done,
I
Commissioner?
am now. I wasn't, but I am.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You got to move quick on me. Next item,
Next
Mr.
we'll
Clerk.
move to administrative report.
Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners. A couple of things I put at your station, a recommendation, in accordance with Section 501 of the Charter, the Home Rule Charter for the Parish of Caddo, I'm pleased to present to you for your consideration confirmation on Thursday, Mr. Travis Clark. And as you all know, last time I talked about the process that we went through, it was a pretty arduous process to go through. And we have, on that committee, we had Dr. Andrea Everson, Erica Fallbaum, Attorney Dan Keel, Cynthia Keith, and Ms. Candy Peavy, Erica Bryan, Henry Bernstein, Randy Lucky, and myself. And we put the candidates through a rigorous question and answer, and we all voted independently of each other for the top candidate. The process was very valid, and Mr. Travis Clark came out on top.
All right.
So he's the person that we are putting forth before you. He's articulated a wonderful vision. He's already provided me a strategic plan for the organization as well. That will come, I appreciate if you move that forward to Thursday confirmation. Also,
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
No, I don't think right now. Will he be here Thursday?
Yes, sir, he'll be here Thursday.
Is there any way, I would say that he could be here a few minutes early, like at 3 o'clock, so us commissioners could at least have a chance to
Yes, sir.
talk to him, shake his hand, you know, just eyeball him.
Yes, sir, he'll be here. And the entire,
Threaten him.
And the entire selection process committee will also be here on
Do what?
Thursday. The entire committee that went through the selection process will also be here on Thursday.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Okay, if you can indulge me for 5 minutes, I'd like to read a letter to you. This letter was addressed to Commissioner Bowman.
Okay.
And it says this, it's dated 14 May today. I'm providing you and other members of the Animal Service Committee with a copy of the Best Friends Animal Society study resulting in an assessment of the Caddo Parish Animal Shelter during the time frame of March 12th to the 13th, 2018. The administration requested that the Best Friends Animal Society conduct an assessment of CPAWS to give us another set of eyes to assess how we can improve our operation and processes that we use to operate and maintain CPAWS. During the Best Friend Animal Society assessment, I had the opportunity to meet with members of the assessment team, whereby I gained a vast amount of knowledge from their feedback and input on industry practice that are being used across the nation. The Best Friends Animal Society assessment team pointed out several areas in which we can improve, as well as many recommendations that we are currently already addressing. In addition to providing the Animal Services Committee with a copy of the Best Friends Animal Society Assessment Report, I'm also including a copy of the Administrative Management Response, which address our plan to implement the recommendations suggested in the assessment report. Commissioner Bowman, in my last letter dated 10 January 2018 to your committee, I stated that we would be requesting the Best Friends Animal Society to conduct an assessment of CPAWS to give me an executable plan. All other past audits, animal services shelter operation, only audit the current operating practice, but fail to point out current national industry practices that could lead to change that would improve CPAWS beyond where we currently are. I am of the opinion that the Best Friends Animal Society Assessment Report provides us with some additional resources that we can use immediately to make the needed improvement to our operation. Since the last time we corresponded with you concerning the status of the various improvement projects, we have contracted with Pet Point Consultant to clean up our Pet Point database and train all employees utilizing the features of the entire software program. As you are aware, a new Animal Services Director will be on board on May 21st, and he will immediately begin to fill all the remaining vacant positions. In addition, based on the results of the Best Friends Animal Society Assessment Report, and in conjunction with directions from me, the new Director of Animal Services and Mosquito Control has been charged to take the necessary action to realign the CPAWS organizational structure to achieve maximum efficiency of operation and to improve responses to animal care and shelter management operation, and to promote partnering with local animal welfare groups. We are planning an open house event on June the 2nd, 2018 for the public to come and meet the new director, and this would afford the public an opportunity to hear what his plans are for improving the shelter operation and also their concerns. So what you have before you is a copy of the Best Friends report and also a copy of the management report as well. The next item I have to talk to you about is I had a request for an update on the internal audit process. The contract has been sent to the contractor who will successfully have been awarded the contract. We should get that back this week. And then the next step we will meet with them here with the audit committee, and then they will brief us on their plans to do the assessment. Because they have to do a risk assessment, and then they'll begin their process with the caveat of doing animal services first, as we was told in the and when we first passed the measure to get this thing done. Also, that should be forthcoming. So those items will be my report for the day. And if you have any questions for me relative to what I said, I'll be glad to answer those questions right now for you all.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Todd, is it automatically on the agenda for the approval of the appointment? Is it down here on our agenda?
It's under our new business today to authorize a confirmation for Thursday, moving
Okay.
Thursday.
All right, that's all I had. Commissioner Middleton?
Yeah, I was just wondering, all this that you just read, Dr. Wilson, these things that Randy passed out, can we make these available to the public today?
Yes, sir. We can put it on our website. Yeah, we put it on our website today.
How soon can we do it?
As soon as we get out of this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
No, we'll have the management report and the report itself.
Yeah, and everything you just read, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
This thing from Best Friends and Animal Society. Thank you.
Ms. Crystal, we can make that so.
You done?
Okay.
Yes, sir, third, yeah.
Commissioner Bowman?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I just want to thank you, Dr. Wilson, administration, and Director Calvin Samuels, because I met with you all with the Best Friends group, and to see that once again we have an outside group to come in and see that we're doing excellent, and even the improvements that they would even suggest are really minor and low cost, no cost that we can do. It just adds to the positive direction in which the shelter has been going, even with under your leadership and under Mr. Samuel's leadership, and I'm sure it will continue with Mr. Clark. It can only get even better now. And Pet Point, something that we all wanted and requested, and beat your head up over. We got it. We got cameras. We have everything now. So there should be no excuse why we can't continue to go greater. So I just want to applaud you and thank you. And you too, Mr. Samuels, as well. And administration, Ms. Bryant.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowman. And
Lucky.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Wilson, you
Yes, sir.
said that the Internal Audit Committee, it's taken this long for them to respond back that they want the job?
No, sir.
Okay, can
They
you
have
elaborate
the-
on that?
They have the company that was selected, they have the contract now, and they have to sign it. Of course, they get their legal team to go over it. We're waiting on them to sign the contract so we can execute it when we get it back.
We
But-
chose them, was it 2 months ago that we chose that company?
Yes, sir. It was 2 months ago.
But the schedule we put in place said we would have a contract in May.
Right.
In May?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's in the schedule that we provided in the RFP.
Right. And they probably follow that schedule, Commissioner Chavez.
Okay.
Mhm.
Can we verify that one of the commissioners or all the commission is in the meetings coming forward whenever they come down and we meet, and that we know what's going on as they're going through the audit? I don't like finding stuff out later on, especially when it comes to an internal audit for the parish. I'd like us to know what's going on and be upfront with everything.
Yeah. Well, you know we have a committee, right? And you're welcome to come to any committee meetings. The committee chair is not here today, but what will happen next is when they come to town to talk to us, we hope to be at a committee meeting, your audit committee meeting, and any commissioner can come to any meeting that we have, of course.
Can you make sure that all the districts
Yes, sir.
know when the committee meeting is called?
Yes, sir. We'll make sure everybody is aware when the meeting will take place.
Okay. Thank you,
But
Dr.
everything
Wilson.
looks as it appears to be on schedule. There's nothing out of the ordinary here, because all this time frame has been put in the RFP. They agree to it and they're adhering to it.
And we also provided the letter that, to the commissioners that we sent out to post-awaited bill, indicating who we selected. And as Dr. Wilson said, the schedule was clearly presented in the RFP, so we've provided all information to the commission, and we are on target with the dates that have been provided in the RFP.
All right. Thank you, guys. Chair, that's all.
Commissioner Atkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to comment, Dr. Wilson, that of course I was not on the selection committee for the Animal Services Director, but I did get a call from one of the citizens on that committee, and that person was very impressed with especially your finalists for the position, and stated that Mr. Clark blew his socks off. So there's been a lot of positive feedback on your selection. So we look forward to having him join the team. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
I wanted to thank you, Mr. President. Agree with Commissioner Chavez on the one hand, but also make the statement that we are presently informed anytime there are committee meetings. So the administration is presently informing us when those committee meetings are taking place. So that happens now. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. And now we're moving to our next item.
Next, we move to commission remarks.
Okay, remember this is the first one. I think it's later on down in the line also. So does anybody have any commission remarks at this time? Commissioner Lyndon Johnson?
Thank you, sir. First, I want to know what's the difference between when we have visitors like today and visitors that we vote on in order to put them on the agenda for our regular session. Should all visitors go through the vote on Monday to be here on Thursday, or do we do a split? Because at one time, if you remember last term, we actually, if they was going to be a visitor and somebody wanted on for Monday, they went up on the administrative report.
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden, visitors are popping up on the agenda without us even having a vote on it. So what's the difference between doing it today and putting it on the agenda for the day and then bringing them down here for Thursday? I just want to know.
I will yield that question to Donna Frazier, our attorney, if she can help us out on that.
Actually, Commissioner, there isn't a difference that's specified. The only matter that your bylaws address is how much time visitors get to spend on their presentations. So it's just a matter of you all doing it differently. So,
but it should be still some structure to how visitors are put onto our agenda.
Todd. The structure is on Monday, this is a work session.
Right.
So if a commissioner wants to bring a speaker, they have a sponsor. Now to get it on Thursday for regular session, it has to be voted on by this board to get it on that Thursday. I mean, everything that goes on Thursday has to be voted on. Whereas a Monday, just like you can introduce any ordinance or resolution or action item or visitor or anything like that, you can do that as long as we have a commissioner sponsoring it.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure, because like I said, the other term, we actually had, if a person wanted to have a visitor, they actually came up under your administrative report. I can remember that. Okay, so that was my first thing. Second thing is, Commissioner Bradford, I guess he's left, but Councilman Bradford, he left. But a vote today, my no vote today, dealing with the agenda addition, was not to kill the progression for a plan to eliminate violent crimes. Basically what it was to say, let's get the players to the table and sit down, get together, and look at allocating joint funding. The parish is really not, to me, looking at the budgets that the parish approved for 2018, which is about $76 million operating budget. The city of Shreveport has $491 million operating budget. And the school board, from what I was able to find, in 2016, 2017, had a $487 million operating budget. So looking at those operating budgets, it seems to me that you could carve out some money for a shot spotter, for something that's going to help secure and make it safe for citizens of Caddo Parish. I'm not saying that one entity is supposed to take on the whole thing, but at least let's sit at the table and put down the players, put down what programs we think will work, what won't work, and what we really need to do. Looking at New Orleans and the state police, when they was called into New Orleans to help out in the Bourbon Street area, after they had a lot of crime that went up, those officers actually did a lot of foot patrol. They was present, they arrest people, and there wasn't much traffic because they blocked the roads off and everything was foot traffic. We have to make sure that we sit down with the right people and making sure that safety is the key thing that we want to try to get as a goal. When I sat down in 2015, some of the answers I got really wasn't what I was expecting to hear, but that was their opinion at that particular time. And out of that is when we bought the additional police cars, because at the time the mayor said the thing that she needed the most was additional cars, and we bought those additional SUVs for the city of Shreveport. We also bought some other equipment for other law enforcement agencies in Caddo Parish as well.
They need more.
So I think that we just need to get all of them together, and a committee of commissioners and Commissioner Dominique, I'm gonna charge you at putting this ad hoc committee together on our side, so that we can then sit down at the table with everybody else and try to get this ironed out and move forward as quickly as possible, with everybody having, as John Escudé would say, skin in the game.
Is that it? Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts?
Thank you, sir. I hate that Councilman Bradford left also, because I just wanted to address why my no vote was today. And as most of you know, especially my colleagues, this is one conversation that I have had deeply over the last 3 years that I have been here. I have been told to scale back talking about crime and the safety of the citizens in Caddo Parish, because it was a city problem. And you all know that I didn't agree with it. I would always say that it's all of our problems. So first of all, with my connection and with my concern, I am not here to play politics. I want to see a plan of action in place. As I said, I called Dr. Wilson on his cell phone one Friday 2 years ago, and I said the only thing I can think of at this point is to engage the National Guard in this type of catastrophe. You remember that, Dr. Wilson? And because we had 8 shootings in less than 48 hours.
That's correct.
And it was totally unacceptable. Also at that time, by that Monday, we had a discussion with the chief of police and the sheriff, and we asked them to present something to us and tell us what it is that we can do to put our skin in the game, to put our hands to the plow, to help these crimes, these shootings, especially these homicides. I also at that time presented a plan that Captain K.R. Jackson, that included collaborative work from the Louisiana State Police, from the Caddo Sheriff Department, from the City of Shreveport Police, when drive-bys were hunting and destroying our communities that I am a part of. I started the Stop the Violence movement in 2016 with hopes that other civilians would stand up and join the fight to stop the violence. And many did take that charge. You know, I didn't get the news until 6:45 a.m. and I'm grateful that I did get it so late, because I would have been out there too to see that 4-year-old child. It did not only concern me, it hurt me to my core, because I have children. And if I didn't have children, I could imagine how a mother would feel having to see her own child, brains blowed out at the hands of a coward. Because that's what you are when you're just shooting into a crowd of people. You don't know who you're gonna shoot. With that being said, we don't need something that's a 2-week delay or some outside organization. You know, as I've said, this is our problem. The city, the state, the USA. Let's enact some real plans and stop playing politics. Come together and make some real demands that we are tired of seeing our streets filled with bloods. Say what you may, but criminals do not want to see the law enforcement climbing and combing their streets day in and day out. We cannot prevent it, but we can slow it down. If those people are seen on feet, if they're seen on horses, if they're seen in their automobiles, things will start to change. And it will not only make the citizens feel safer and their families, but it will provide some safer streets for us. So that's why my vote was no today, because we don't have time to talk about it. We got to be about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Stormy Gage Watts. Commissioner Bowman?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I agree with you 100%, Stormy Gage Watts. My point is, I know Commissioner Johnson, you mentioned about that you killed the bill, or you want us to get to, so we'll be able to meet about it. Is that correct?
Yes, the key players.
Right, the key players, okay. But we also have people who are here, like the Councilman Bradford and even Councilman Bowman here. I feel like we kill the deal when we take it off the table, because we could have made some type of move to reduce the funding or even add to it or take away, but at least something, the discussion could still be had. And so, I agree. I sponsored the bill too, give the vehicles to the city of Shreveport, even when others didn't want to. And so we all agree, and it all affects crime, all of us. I just want us to not do things like we have done, like, as y'all say, kicking the can. You know, we should really make a discussion, and it should be not just the commission, but the city council. It should be everyone from different districts, because this is a problem that affects everybody, you know. And it shouldn't be just based upon this smart shooter, whatever program, you know, that's going on as well. It needs to be a continuing conversation. What's happening in the community is not a one-stop fix. It's not a chief of police can fix. It's not a mayor. It's not a president of commission, or, you know, it's not one voice. It's different voices. So I think we all should continue to scream out. It should never be political. And I hate that that has been the vibe, or that's even been out there, period, because this is about life, and we all should be concerned and caring. And even if we don't pay $1 million or something for a program, whatever can reduce and can help what's going on, you know, it's really serious. No, it's not Chicago. No, it's not Detroit. But we're on our way. And whatever it is, if in the past, if we didn't work with the council, or something didn't work, then that's the past. Right now, we need to do what we can to try and work with every entity and agency to make things better, because it's our problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowman. Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to acknowledge and welcome City Council President Jerry Bowman. Wanted to acknowledge him and thank him for attending the meeting today. That's all. Thank you.
And Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hate that Councilman Bradford left. He and I share City Council, Parish Commission District, along with Councilman Evers. Since I've been elected in 2016, I've sat in 6 meetings with city, parish, and state officials to talk about crime. We've organized, to my knowledge, there was a concerted effort, and 4 events were organized around crime. Randy, if you hear, I think Randy sat with me at one of those meetings. I stopped. We stopped going to those meetings because the lack of interest, because folks just felt we were just sitting around the table talking. This idea was brought up at an intergovernmental meeting to use ShotSpotter, and it went nowhere. If there's a concerted effort to put some resources on the table, here's an opportunity to put our resources on the table. And that's why I brought my legislation. I'm not down here to talk about problems. Our job as legislators is to legislate. So when I see a problem, I'm going to put some on the agenda to respond to it. And you can almost rest assured that it'll be back Thursday, or I'll just get with Todd and we'll put it on the proper agenda. But the problem is not going to go away. What I hear and see is we're tired of people down there just talking. I don't think we should just throw money at the problem. I agree, we should get folks together. But if the same people come to the table saying the same thing and we see no movement, I've gone to 8 prayer vigils on street corners. I've gone to 6 prayer rallies. And so out of that, what I heard the most effective quote I heard out of that was, prayer without work, or faith without works, is dead. And so we have to do the work, and our work is the legislative side of it. Our job is to come down, identify policy, identify programs that we can task our administrators or the chief executive, if you're at the city of Shreveport, with carrying out. And that's what this is. So I appreciate Councilman Bradford coming down today in support of it. We're going to continue to put this forward, and I'll continue to put this on the agenda. I appreciate those who were willing to at least engage in discussion about what we should do. This was not proposed as there are no quick fixes to this issue. I understand that certain things that people put on the agenda are out of the box sometimes, but that's what we do. That's our job. And whether you agree or disagree with it, we're here to serve the people that sent us down here. And so I would be derelict if 3 other shootings that took place this weekend took place in my district. And to just not do anything about it or seem unconcerned about it is a challenge for me. And I know it's a challenge for everybody sitting up here. So I don't approach this as a political issue. This is a people issue. We serve people. And so I see this as our opportunity to either step up or hush up. Simply put, our job is to put policy on paper and bring it to this body and move things forward. If we can't do that, we're just down here spinning our wheels. I'm open to sitting down having a conversation. I can do that all day. But where's the policy? Where's the program that we need to implement? And that's where I am. And I think that's where our citizens are, because they are tired. All of the RIPs and the GoFundMes for burial costs. We gotta get beyond that. This is not gonna fix it. ShotSpotter's not gonna fix the problem. Cameras are not going to fix or solve the problem. But if it is a tool that has been recognized as a best practice, then let's be open to using it. Is it $1 million that we need to put up? Maybe not. Whatever our role is, let's put ours out there, and then we have to tell others, now you come to the table. But we will have done our part. So that's all this was. No politics, just people. Thank you. Thank you. No politics, just people. That's it, Mr. President.
Commissioner Lyndon Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that if we have to put up $1 million to sit at the table to talk to another government entity to get something done, there's something wrong. I mean, the citizens of Shreveport need to vote everybody out of office. And I really feel that, you know, we should be looking for solutions to the problem. And like I said, if we should not stop at one meeting. It should be a continuous meeting. But until you get law enforcement there and at the table to support whatever you're gonna do, it's not gonna work. I mean, we can put $2 million at the table. Still, it's not gonna work. They'll take the $2 million and run with it. But at the same time, if they don't buy into it, it's not gonna work. So we had to get their buy-in to it. When I brought up the ShotSpotter deal, I thought it was one thing because looking at across the United States, I was looking at what are some of the safer cities, and all the safer cities have ShotSpotters in place. And it's something that could be done at a small scale, put it in the worst area of town, and then move around and expand it. But to me, for us to fund it 100%, I think is wrong. And this is the best time to bring whatever plan we plan to do out now, because it's at an all-time high right now of violent crime, serious violent crimes. And I don't care what statistics say about overall crime going down, but the act of the crimes are going up. That's being serious, and we need to act upon it. And I'll sit down with any of the city councilmen, the school board members, the police chief, the sheriff, the commander of the state police, hey, we need to address this. We need to get this done. We need to get a handle on this as soon as possible. Because like I said, school will be out, I think it's May 17th. And after that, it's gonna go up some more.
Yep.
Statistics have said that year in and year out, that crime will go up when the summer starts and kids are out of school. And so we need to put some kind of plan in place. If not, we'll just be sitting here talking about this next month, and some more people have died. And you know, I don't want that on my conscience. That's why I started the talks back in 2015 to get it started. And we got to keep it going. Thank you.
Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts.
Thank you, sir. I'll be brief. Dr. Wilson, would you do some research for me? Find out how much the city of Shreveport spent on some cameras a few years back, and if they know where any of those cameras are and if they're working.
What were they for?
They were street cameras.
Street cameras, okay.
In the Motown area?
Sort of the same type of cameras that we're mentioning right now. And I think it was about $1 million that was spent in that prospective area. But I would like the general statistics on that. And secondly, the other party was mentioned that, you know, we could have made some agenda additions, or we could have made a substitute motion in reference to what was presented to us today. I'm not sure who presented that part, but this was my first time seeing this when I got here today. So I had no idea that this was going to even be discussed today. So I had no time to make anything as far as making any substitute motions, because I'm always willing to work with everybody on anything that will improve the quality of life of citizens of Caddo Parish. So I just wanted to make sure that that was understood as well, and that's it.
Commissioner Bowman?
You've got to end it like this, Dorman. All right. I really don't need to continue on it. I'm in agreement. It sounds like we're all saying the same thing. I just don't want this just to drop. And sometimes we have to think outside the box. And again, if that amount was what deterred people, we need to just look forward to. I mean, it was the reason why the city council members and Councilman Bradford came down here. It's because law enforcement recommended the program and recommended it for support. They're bringing it to us for us to now see if we step up or if we are serious about it. You know, nothing's perfect, and it probably could have, you know, may have not even gotten that funding, but we could have been able to do something while we are able to. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Next item.
President's report.
I have none at this time.
We have no old business. We move to new business. Zoning case P918 regards to ordinance number 5778, in the zoning property located approximately 725 feet west of Colonial Drive, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from RA Rural Agricultural District to C4 Heavy Commercial District.
Commissioner Lewis Johnson. Is that your
move.
district? Okay, so that's made by Commissioner Lewis Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Stephen Jackson to move to Thursday. Please vote. And that passes. Next item.
Authorize introduction of ordinance number 5779, amending volume 2 of Code of Ordinances relative to the Unified Development Code and zoning and subdivision generally, to provide for the creation of a Caddo Parish Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals, to provide for the administration of zoning and subdivision matters within parish government.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Chavez, seconded by Commissioner Middleton. You want to talk about on this?
Absolutely. Guys, I know a lot of you guys have talked to me about this, and we just have so many developers and people that are just having a lot of issues with the user friendliness of the Metropolitan Planning Commission, and they want change, and they're looking at us like we need to do something about it. So the reason that I brought this forward is I know it's very wordy, and I'd like to get Henry to come up and explain exactly what it is. Although it has a lot of different ordinances attached, it's actually very limiting on what is actually being changed. Henry, I'll let you take it from there, and we'll continue on.
Sure. Commissioners, basically the proposed ordinance does two things. One, directly and immediately, and that is it would bring in-house the administration and enforcement of zoning within the parish outside of the city limits. In essence, what you can look at this is it's taking what's being done on the 4th floor and moving it to the 8th floor. Now, in doing that, the proposed ordinance also creates a Caddo Parish Planning Commission and a Caddo Parish Zoning Board of Appeals, because you need to have those bodies to accomplish this. And that goes to the second piece of this, and that is by doing this, by setting up that Caddo Parish Planning Commission, and there's going to have to be some staff hired. There's going to have to be a certified planner brought in and hired and put on payroll. You then have a staff and you've got a board to then take a look at the development code, and if there's some changes that you think need to be made there, if you think there's some things in that that really aren't appropriate for the parish, then you've got the mechanism, you've got the staff, and you've got the body to then make those changes and to bring to you some recommendations that I've heard from a number of you that you want to make some changes. But this way, you've got somebody that you can task, you can appoint a planning commission that is responsive to you and only to you, and you can then, through that planning commission, say, we want you all to take a look at tailoring this to better fit Caddo Parish. So that's the two things. One, directly, it brings it in-house, sets up the bodies that would run it and administer it. And then secondly, it then lays the groundwork, sets the stage for then making some changes to the UDC to put in effect, to make the UDC responsive, as I've heard several of you feel like it needs to be changed.
Henry, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and open this up to the floor. I know I have a little bit more to say, but this obviously is going to get into some conversation for a while, and President Doug Dominic just had to leave, so we'll start the floor with Jackson.
I was just going to make a substitute motion to remand this to the Long Range Planning Committee.
Second.
All right. Yeah, I'd speak on it because we'll address that as well. You want to speak on your second?
Sure, thank you. I agree with Commissioner Jackson on this issue. This is a very complex and important issue. I think it's important that it be properly studied and evaluated before we make a decision to withdraw from the MPC. There's also lots of other activities going on the city side and within the MPC itself. In an ideal world, I'd like to see the leadership of the MPC recognize the challenges that our community is facing and become much more business friendly and cooperative and responsive to the desires of developers. That's what I certainly like to see happen. If we can't get that, if we can't make those changes within the existing structure, then perhaps we should evaluate a new structure. But in the end, I support Commissioner Jackson's proposal to move this to the long range planning.
Commissioner Johnson, is that on the board for moving it to committee, or is that for the previous motion?
It's for both of them. Really.
Okay, you want to speak on moving it to committee?
Yes. I think the changes that were proposed today are some that we really need to look at. Initially with UDC came up, I was one of the ones who was saying, hey, it's not ready. It's not ready. We need to wait and look it over. And so in that, I think now is over 200 amendments that has been added in just 1 year. So it still wasn't ready when they voted on it. So what I want to do is bring this to committee, let the commission as a whole sitting in on this long range, we go through this, if it's line by line or section by section, and then work out all the kinks that we possibly can before we try to move this forward to bring it onto our agenda, because it has a lot of ratifications. You have to make sure that public works, how many people will be added. According to Henry, he said the staff. I know initially I was thinking maybe one person be added because it's only about 11 cases of last year, roughly. 11 cases, 10 cases. How many? Two? Okay, so 2 cases. So I'm saying why we need a staff, but maybe an additional person to be able to move it along through. One of the things I was looking at in order to save taxpayers' dollars is I know that the city has been talking about increasing what we pay to the MPC, and we get to a point that where there's no return on that, and it's to the point of I think we're close to that right now, but we're paying way more in than what we're gonna be getting out of it. And if it's only a couple of cases, I mean, come on, why waste all that money on a couple of cases? So I would like for us to be able to get as a whole, and then more people buy into the changes that are on here instead of a handful. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnson. Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you very much. I think that Commissioner Atkins expressed my sentiments as it relates to where we are, and that there are a number of things to consider as it relates to it, and I think those things could be and would be best viewed in the long-range planning, so I could support Commissioner Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I'm going to speak for the first time. I'm going to get Ken Water up here. Ken, if you'll come for a second, and while he's coming up, guys, we spent $200,000 to the MPC. They wanted more. We cut them down to $200,000. If we hired one person on board, on staff to manage this, to manage those 2 accounts, I think it would be very easy to say that we would save the taxpayers a lot of money.
I just don't think that we need to go on where we're at, and we've gone through this through long-range planning for many, many times. If that's the way that it's going to go, I'll call the long-range planner this Thursday. I wanted to start these conversations because we needed to get this done. It's very obvious that the local development community does not like what's going on, and I keep hearing around this horseshoe, well, let's just wait to see what the city's going to do. Guys, we're leaders. Stop waiting for the city. Let's just do it. Let's be the leaders and say we need to pull this in-house and do what needs to be done. I know that Mr. Bernstein said that we need to hire staff, and I disagree with that, but I think that this is the way to start the conversation, to say, here's the piece of paper that we can start working towards. We have our goal. We need to get a commonality between the 12 of us on where we need to be, and reach out to some professionals. Ken, if you'd like to speak, what would you like to see this document look like, and how best to serve the taxpayers?
Well, first I'd like to state that Public Works, we're not in the planning business. We would have to hire at least one person to manage this. We've been researching, as from the last committee meeting that we were at, that we kind of were put together different types of options based on visiting with many of you, and as well as based on the options that we've been hearing from the developers. There's a lot of cases where they're not happy with the UDC. We've heard this from y'all and from the outside. They want faster responses. So we were actually looking. We've heard things in the last committee meeting too about reducing the 5-mile band. And this doesn't do that. And what this does, Henry's done a great job of putting it together. It pushes it up.
Mr. Chairman. Point of order.
Yes, sir.
The motion was to remand this to the Long Range Planning Committee. I think we are getting off.
We're speaking on the motion.
The germaneness of the motion was to recommend it to the Long Range Planning Committee, not to get into the substance of why we should or shouldn't do it. Why we shouldn't or shouldn't go forward with this ordinance that's on the agenda. And I believe that that's not germane to the motion.
Chair has the rule.
Well,
out of respect, would you allow Ken to finish, and then we can make the vote?
And I'll keep it short. I just, there are options out there, and if you wanted to move forward today, this is definitely there. If you wanted to move it to committee, it's strictly up to you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. I appreciate you. All right, guys, we have a motion.
Say thank you.
We have a motion on the floor to remand this to long range planning. We can have a vote. I understand. All right, and that passes 10 with 2 out of the chamber.
9-1.
9.
9-1.
Oh, I didn't see that red. Thank you, Mr. Lake. All right, Mr. Hopkins.
All right, next we move to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 5780 of 2018, authorizing emergency aid to those who were affected by the April 2018 tornado and hailstorm.
So moved. Second.
I got a motion on the floor in a second. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
Yeah, I would like to make a substitute motion to remove the hailstorm.
Second.
And I'll tell you why.
All right. Go ahead.
I mean, most of the hailstorm damage was typically done to cars, and I think most of the stuff South Shreveport area, most of the car lots, got damaged around around the hailstorm. But the way that the disaster aid was put up, it was basically put up for damages to homes and then to the property of those homes, and not basically to cars, because even with cars, you can drive them with hail damage. So that's nothing that puts somebody out. But if you have tornado damage to a home, you're homeless or almost homeless.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Johnson, for pointing that out. I think Attorney Fraser, we were just kind of in a rush because we had some deposition stuff going on. It's a quick question. How do we do this so that do we have to keep bringing this back for a vote when there's a emergency situation?
You have to authorize each expenditure from the funds that you set aside.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
All right, guys, please vote.
On the substitute
motion.
President.
Yes, sir.
I was on.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bowman.
They say, like, with prayers, you have to thank people in advance. I just want to thank all the commissioners in advance for support of this ordinance. Thank you.
Don't thank them yet. We still got Thursday to go.
Oh, God.
This is true. We got 2 Thursdays to go.
Hopefully you all still feel the same way. Help Queensboro,
Two
how they
weeks from
feel.
now, huh?
All right, and that passes.
So this is to remove the hailstorm portion and
Yeah,
move to
thank you.
Thursday.
And move
Yes.
to adopt, to introduce as amended.
Thank you.
Second.
You too, Commissioner Jackson.
All right, Mr. Hopkins. Need to vote on that. I think it needs to, is it cleared? It's not cleared yet?
Okay.
Okay, please vote.
So what are we voting on, Mr. Chairman?
This is to adopt with the amendment and
Well,
move
it's
it
to
forward to
move
Thursday.
as
It's
amended.
a move
Or
it
to-
as
to
amended.
move.
It's a move as amended.
Really don't have to
I
do
thought
all
somebody
that.
did.
Mr. Chavez, remember you need to vote on your machine.
You know what? How do I undo his vote? Just press it again?
Just press again, yeah. Take them off.
You got a vote over there.
That's what I'm talking about. Get Doug some votes.
You get 2 of them.
I got 3.
He's a boss.
We'll take
Take
Ms.
Doug
Cummings'
off.
vote off.
So that'd be
Okay,
10-0.
thank you. All right, and that passes 10-0. It's debatable.
Next, we move to authorize resolution number 37, expressing support for House Bill 885.
Move to approve.
Requesting adoption of
Second.
House Bill 885.
Second.
All right, got a motion on the floor and a second. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson,
No, you're gonna ask them if you wanna talk
Oh.
as the maker.
you want to, the maker of the motion, you want to speak on it?
Sure, I'll speak on it. This is simply a request by the House to get the legislative auditor to request the legislative auditor look at all of the safety net hospitals in the state of Louisiana to check and make sure that all of them are funded fairly and equally. And if they are, then all's good, and if they're not, then it needs to be looked at. And this is all handled through the legislative budget. This, to my understanding and from listening to all of the Northwest Louisiana legislators, all of them are in favor of this. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Lynn. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you. I want to really know what more about House Bill 885 is, because you talk about the Medicare piece of it, Medicaid piece of funding, and to validate that all the hospitals are getting the same amount of funding. Has there been a study for this?
This is requesting that study,
Okay.
if you're asking me.
Okay, well, I saw act. I didn't see anything about a study in any of this, so that's why I asked that question. Was there a study to make sure that there is a deal that we need to even bring this up? Second of all, has this been talked about in committee, subcommittee down in Baton Rouge?
Yes.
Did it make it out of subcommittee?
It made it out of committee, yes.
All right. Has the House supported this so far?
Who are you asking, Commissioner?
The maker of the one that's sponsoring the act.
They're working it out. That's why we're proposing this.
Certainly those from Northwest Louisiana.
Right. Well, I think Commissioner Johnson, it was put back on the calendar, if you don't mind.
You'll go right ahead, please.
It was placed back on the calendar for the author of the instrument, Representative Glover. He's going to work with some folks from the New Orleans delegation. And so I can say I'm at least proud to see Northwest Louisiana delegation on one accord about something for Northwest Louisiana. And they're working with the New Orleans delegation for how they want to approach this. I think there's some conversation being had about what happens if the parity, which I believe most folks know is there, what happens when they ultimately find that parity, and how the administration is going to deal with it. I think it should come back to the House floor, if not by the end of this week, early next week. But this is basically a study resolution. Well, not resolution, a study instrument for the legislature.
Okay. Well, what I'll do today is vote yes to bring it on the regular session, and then from the regular session, I will have more information.
Have you talked to your state representative?
Well, I talked to him last week, and he didn't mention this to me, but.
Oh, really?
So that's why I need to. I'll go ahead and vote to do it, but at the same time, I need to have a conversation. We're not only him, but
hang tight 1 second, guys. He has the floor.
He did. Pardon.
So. Yeah, so that's what I do. I'll vote yes today, but by Thursday I have a lot of ammunition. So.
Oh. Is that all, Commissioner Johnson?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Jackson.
I think Todd's trying to make a
Just point of information, it is on the House calendar today, right? So they may be getting to it here just a little bit.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say, again, part of my comments is I'm great to see our delegation on one accord about something. It took us a while to get a North Louisiana delegation, and if you don't know what our delegation consists of, it's not just Shreveport, it's Shreveport, Natchitoches, Alexandria, Monroe, Bossier, Webster Parish, Lincoln Parish, all of those delegation members that basically cover the NLEP, that's 15 parish district. And so this is a huge delegation that we have. Finally, we have a delegation that's speaking up. This not only focuses on the hospital here in Shreveport, hospital and med school in Shreveport, but the hospital in Safety Net Hospital in Monroe as well, that University Health, soon to be Ochsner, are operating. This is something we know the economic driver that the medical school and the hospital is for our community, and so I think it's a good sign for us to support this. And the only reason why it has to be in House bill is because I believe if the parity is found, it would instruct the Division of Administration to do some financial reallocations. That's the reason why it can't just be a resolution as opposed to actual House bill. That's it for me. Thank you, Mr.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Acting President.
Real quick, guys, I appreciate you guys for bringing this on. I actually read the article this morning that said ultra-conservative Alan Seabaugh and Representative Glover get along, or you know, he even stated that he agreed with this, and he can rarely say that he ever agrees with Cedric Glover. So I thought it was awesome to see a unified delegation from Northwest Louisiana. When we always get treated like stepchildren up here, that we have the collective group fighting for us south of I-10. So it was nice to see that. And of course, it's controversial because the people in New Orleans, they don't want to see that. No. So I like that we can all get on the same page and be on our own team. I know some people have reservations of urging other people and other bodies to do this, that, or the other, but maybe I can ask that, you know, if all those guys from both sides of the aisle can get together and hold hands, we possibly can too on this. Yeah. And that's all. Commissioner Atkins?
Well, thank you for that lead-in, Commissioner Chavez. Diverted towards me, and yes, it's true. I hesitate to get involved with activities on other legislative bodies' agenda, especially in Baton Rouge, where oftentimes we can't see the whole picture. But in this particular case, I think that the fact that the whole North Louisiana delegation is united behind it, and the fact that my old high school teammate Cedric Glover raised it,
touchdown.
I think I can get behind this particular issue. So I hope you all will forgive me for violating my own protocol.
Were you his blocker?
Thank you.
Were you his blocker?
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. All right, guys. So we have a vote on the floor. Todd, get Doug's off again.
All right, so that'll be 10-0.
All right, and that passes. Moving on.
All right, next we move to authorize resolution number 38.
So move for
support.
introduction.
Second.
All right, you want to speak on that?
Yeah, I'll just speak very briefly. I know that there was some confusion about would we be applying versus this is what we have on the agenda, and I think what we have on the agenda today, Attorney Frazier, I want to be clear, what we have on the agenda today does not commit us to doing anything other than maybe they want to let us support for their application. Dr. Wilson, would you be okay offering a letter of support?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As long as we're not the applicant.
Applicant,
Yeah.
okay. And so I'm fine with what's on the agenda. right now. I don't know if anybody else wants to add anything to it, but at least what's on the agenda, I don't see any harm to us supporting their application. Unless y'all have any objections to that.
Yeah, as long as we're not the applicant for the process.
And Attorney Frazier, if I'm correct, this only says we're supporting.
That's correct.
Okay, that's it, Mr. President.
All right. I want to make a substitute amendment that we pass this with no financial obligation of the parish.
Second. I'll second that. I'll
All
second
right.
that as a friendly
Okay.
amendment. But I think it's in there. There's no financial.
I'm sorry?
Or personnel.
Or personnel?
I was about to say, this resolution, the only thing that the resolution does is provide that you support their application, or actually provides that you support the application of the first JDC and VOA. And so you would actually have to do an ordinance to appropriate some money, to put money in it. Right now, there's no money in it. So there's nothing to, no need to stipulate that it'd be without financial support or personnel, because it's not included in there.
I thought I recalled, Dr. Wilson, you saying something to the effect of a match of a third or a fourth. What was that you'd say?
Yes, sir. According to the grant rules, it does require a match of $166,000.
That's not in this resolution.
But I don't know where they're going to get it from, but it's not in this.
Okay, I just wanted, I'd rather us stand behind that we love this, but we're not going to pay for it right now. So I think I'm going to leave mine on there, regardless if it's on there or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Lynn?
Yes, I welcome that added resolution or that amendment to the resolution, and I apologize for not being here this morning or earlier today for the person who came and spoke on its behalf. However, I did visit with them on the telephone in great length, and they have been receiving this federal grant to do this diversion program for veterans for many years. And this year, the dynamics of it changed a little bit, and the only dynamic that changed was that they needed a resolution from the parish for which they operate in to support it. And so there is no monetary tie to this. This is merely a thank you for doing this, and we're glad that they're doing it, that they can include in their application packet to the federal government. Now, the tricky thing on this one, and it's not tricky if we all vote yes, is that this is time sensitive, is that we have to pass this Thursday in order for them to be able to meet the time constraints that the federal government has put on them in order to receive this. And so we can't send this to committee. Any debate or questions that we have need to be answered between now and Thursday. And so if any of y'all have any questions regarding this, I certainly encourage you to reach out to the people that did the presentation, or myself, or we can set up an emergency meeting throughout this week, because it's very important that they get this money to serve our veterans in Caddo Parish. We serve veterans at Overton Brooks VA as far east as Monroe, as far west as Longview, as far south as Alexandria, and as far north as Little Rock, Arkansas. And this would just focus on the Caddo Parish veterans, but know that this is something that other people from our area could learn from. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lynn. Commissioner Atkins.
Dr. Wilson, thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, I've heard you say that you're supportive of this resolution as it's currently written, and I'm fine with it as long as the administration is fine with it. You had expressed earlier some concerns about managing third party.
That's correct.
About third parties managing under our name.
Right.
Can you? Are you?
Yes, sir.
You okay with that? Have you resolved all that?
Yes, sir. I just want to be clear. The gentleman that spoke earlier asked us to be the applicant, and I told you we should not be the applicant.
Okay.
But if this language says letter of support, no problem with that.
Okay.
As long as we're not the applicants.
Right.
Putting up the matching funds for it.
I understand. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
Thank you. I know you said that the dynamics of the application changed, and I know you heard you say something about a matching piece of it. So as they fill out the application, is it that a governmental entity has to be a part of this particular application? I know you looked at the 51 pages,
The
so.
instruction says the court can put it in forward, law enforcement agencies can put it in forward.
From the higher education institution.
It doesn't specifically say higher ed on here.
State
but-
agency.
Pardon me?
State agency.
Yeah, state agencies too.
Higher education.
Okay,
That's
so,
what it says.
so somebody has to be put into that slot.
Yes, sir. Somebody have to have access to U.S. government grant.orgs. They'll go online and apply for this.
Right.
But, we had other requests before. We said
And I
no.
heard something about the DUNS number being used.
Yes, sir. That's
So
correct.
that won't be used as well.
Right.
So basically, this is just saying that we okay with you doing it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, in the past, I know that we'll pass a resolution, and then 2 months later, well, the need for matching funds then come back, and you hold us captive because you basically said, well, you passed a support resolution to get this done, and so now you don't want to help fund it. So I'm a little, because I've heard too many different stories today.
Yes.
So I'm a vote the way my heart and my mind is going, and that's it.
Is that all?
That's it.
All right. Attorney Frazier.
I just want to make sure that everyone understands that the resolution, the way it's written, does not do what they came and asked you to do in their presentation.
Which is what they want to do.
And so what this is a mere letter of support, or a resolution of support that they can include with their application if they so desire. But it does not require the parish to be the applicant. It's not saying that the parish is going to be the applicant or pass through or provide anything other than this piece of paper.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Frazier. Dr. Wilson, you have to speak again?
Oh, no, sir, I'm okay.
Okay, I didn't know. All right. Commissioner Jackson.
I just want to I just want to say I would encourage them to probably reach out at least to LSUS. They are state agencies, LSUS, SUSLA, Centenary, maybe some of the local colleges. You brought up a good point earlier with the foster grandparents.
Yes, sir.
ULM actually did the application, and it's through ULM now.
Right.
And so, I believe they all have grant staff, institutional effective officers that can actually write the grant and partner with them on that. So I would encourage, reach out to maybe some of our local higher education institutions, and if we need to facilitate that partnership, please let us know. But I don't see why they wouldn't incorporate this into their mission to serve veterans as well. And maybe, I don't think Hope Connections is a public, okay, so I think that the best way is going to be your higher education institute. Thank you.
That's it, okay. All right, guys, let's knock out this non-binding agreement. I think what we're voting on first is the substitute motion just to accept the no financial obligation from the parish that I added and got a second. So let's vote on that real quick. All right, that passes, and then we move to Thursday. Again, this is just a no binding obligation. It may be written unlike he would like, but he's got a roadmap from here out, so please vote.
That is to
We'll
move
vote on
Thursday with the amendment.
With the amendment.
Yes.
Garbage.
And that passes. All right, Mr. Hopkins?
Next, we move to authorize resolution number 39, 2018, declaring May 22nd as National Maritime Day.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. You want to speak on your motion?
No, I think since Doug's not here right now, I would move to englobe both 39, 40, and 41 to be moved forward until Thursday.
Second.
I got a motion on the floor to englobo 39, 40, and 41. LBJ, are you on the board for that englobo or for the previous?
I was going to englobo those.
Okay.
And I also want to englobo the authorization confirmation of animal services and mosquito control director, and authorize the reappointment of Fire District Number 5 board
Second.
members.
Do you want to add resolution 42? That was an agenda addition. That was in compliance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Hopkins, you want to read that so we can vote on it?
So the motion seconds to englobo resolution 39, 40, 41, 42, authorize confirmation of animal services and mosquito control director, authorize reappointment of fire district number 5 board members.
All right. Please vote.
I'm on the board, and a point of order, I'm gonna have to abstain from this unless somebody tells me what the add-on resolution 42 is. I read the agenda several times before I got here.
This was this one, they brought it to us. It was expanded the agenda and added it. It's a yearly acceptance of the Louisiana compliance question.
I got it. Okay, I'm good. Thank you. I just wanted to know what I was voting on.
All right, guys, please vote. And that passes 7 with everybody else out of the chamber.
Next we move to committee reports, communication committee reports. Reminder of NGO on Thursday, 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock? All right.
And you get 2 documents.
All right. I'd like to call a long-range planning meeting on this Thursday at 1, right before yours, so we can start hashing out these UDC issues that we need to talk about. So, Mr. Hopkins, will you send out to the group, just let them know that we'll want to...
May I just make a point of order?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to let you know before you call that UDC meeting, there is the Chamber MPC meeting occurring at LSUS at the same time.
We'll wait then. I'll do it later.
Thank you.
Yeah, you guys stay tuned, and I'll announce that via email.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. Lastly, I want to wish my mother Happy Mother's Day, who flew in from California.
Hey, Mom! Yay! Aren't you proud of him?
All right, Commissioner Middleton.
Just real briefly, to let everyone know that we're planning a memorial service at the courthouse on Thursday, May 24th at 10 o'clock, and Crystal and Ted Cox helping us put together an agenda for that, and we're going to involve people from post-installers and everything that are veterans or active military, so that's going to be a no cost to the parish. It's just to put it out there as something. Historically, Tom Williams was a prior parish judicial administrator, and he had us doing this every year at the courthouse, and he went away. I mean, he's still around, don't get me wrong, but he's no longer there, and I thought we should revamp this and get it going again. We're doing it on Thursday prior to Memorial Day, so because I know everybody goes crazy with the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday being off, and so we're going to do that on Thursday, the 24th.
You can't leave.
If that's good. Y'all it's just a heads up. Really doesn't need any vote, just a heads up.
Yeah, but
Ted
we
gonna
lose
make
a
us do
quorum.
push-ups?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm with you.
Yeah, we lose a quorum.
All right, I see nobody else on the board to speak.
I know the
Move
rules.
to adjourn.
Second.
All right, adjourned.
Nice work, Commissioner Chavez.
Thanks, guys.
And that's why I did it.